Good morning and welcome back to the channel. In the early hours of Friday, May 8th, 2026, Western Indonesia time, football gave us one of those moments that instantly felt larger than the match itself. Under the lights in the Saudi Pro League, the meeting between Al Shabab and Al Nassr had already delivered tension, drama, momentum swings, and the kind of atmosphere that makes every touch feel important. Yet even with all of that intensity, the defining image of the night belonged to one man. In the 72nd minute, Cristiano Ronaldo arrived in the penalty area, timed his movement perfectly, and met a low cross from Sadio Mane. With one composed finish, he sent the ball into the net, gave Al Nassr a 3-1 advantage, and scored the 100th goal of his Al Nassr career. It was the kind of goal that carried layers of meaning. On the surface, it was a clinical attacking move in a fiercely competitive league match. But in the broader story of Ronaldo's career, it represented another landmark in a journey already filled with extraordinary numbers, unforgettable nights, and a relentless pursuit of excellence that has stretched across continents, generations, and eras of football. From the opening whistle, the game carried a nervous energy. Al Shabab entered the contest, determined to disrupt rhythm, contest every second ball, and make life difficult for an Al Nassr side that wanted control and tempo. Every challenge seemed to arrive with extra intensity. Every forward pass drew a reaction from the crowd. There was no feeling of a routine league fixture. It felt like a match that mattered not only in the standings but emotionally, because both teams understood the symbolic weight of beating a rival on a big night. Al Nassr began with ambition. Their first movements were sharp, especially through the wide areas. The midfield tried to circulate possession quickly, stretching the defensive block and looking for spaces between the lines. The idea was clear: pull Al Shabab out of shape, move the ball with speed, and create situations where their forwards could attack the penalty area, facing goal rather than with their backs turned. Al Shabab, however, were organized and disciplined. They were prepared to absorb pressure, narrow the spaces in central areas, and force Al Nassr into wider channels. Their compactness meant that every pass into dangerous territory had to be earned. When possession turned over, they transitioned forward with urgency. Instead of simply surviving, they looked ready to punish any moment of hesitation. That balance made the contest fascinating. Al Nassr had the territorial control, but Al Shabab had the capacity to threaten in moments. The game moved in waves. 1 minute the ball was circulating around the Al Shabab penalty area. The next, a quick transition forced Al Nassr to retreat and defend. For long stretches, the match felt poised between patience and chaos. Ronaldo's presence influenced everything, even before the goal arrived. Defenders tracked his movements closely. Midfielders were constantly aware of where he positioned himself. Every time he drifted towards space, bodies followed. That is one of the less obvious aspects of elite forwards. Their impact is not measured only by touches or shots. Sometimes it appears in the defensive decisions they force opponents to make. Sometimes it appears in the room they create for teammates. Mane was equally important in shaping the attacking rhythm. His directness changed the geometry of the game. When he accelerated, defensive lines dropped deeper. When he carried the ball at pace, midfielders were dragged out of their structure. His willingness to attack space gave Al Nassr vertical threat, and that threat mattered because it prevented Al Shabab from defending too high. As the match developed, the emotional stakes kept rising. Every stoppage felt meaningful. Every duel carried visible urgency. Coaches reacted constantly from the touchline, urging compactness, demanding intensity, asking for smarter positioning. Players sensed the possibility that one decisive sequence could change everything. When Al Nassr found their way into attacking phases, there was increasing belief in the movement of the front line. Combinations began to flow more naturally. Passes arrived a fraction earlier. Runs were better coordinated. There was a growing sense that the breakthrough would come from precision rather than force. The beauty of football is that even in matches filled with tactical structure, decisive moments often feel instinctive. The 72nd minute delivered exactly that. The move began with speed and awareness. Al Nassr advanced into the final third, and the ball found Mane in space. In that instant, there were several possible choices. He could have slowed the play. He could have attempted to cut inside. He could have tried an ambitious pass. Instead, He read the movement unfolding ahead of him. Ronaldo had already started to adjust his run. He did not rush into the box blindly. He measured the defenders, delayed his movement just enough to avoid arriving too early, and then accelerated into the channel where the delivery would hurt most. It was a detail that can easily be missed in real time, but it was the essence of elite finishing. The goal did not begin with the touch. It began with the timing. Mane then drove a low cross across the face of goal. It was not floated. It was not hopeful. It was sharp, purposeful, and perfectly weighted. The ball arrived into the corridor between defenders and goalkeeper, that danger strip of space where hesitation can be fatal. Ronaldo met it with the calm of a player who has spent an entire career mastering decisive moments. No extra touch, no unnecessary drama, just clean contact, guided with authority. And the ball was in the net for a fraction of a second. There was the familiar pause that often follows big goals. Then the stadium erupted. Al Nassr led 3-1, and Ronaldo had reached 100 goals for the club. What made the moment especially powerful was the simplicity of the finish. Great milestones do not always come through spectacular overhead kicks or thunderous long-range strikes. Sometimes they come through the most fundamental elements of the game: movement, anticipation, positioning, composure, execution. In many ways, that made the goal feel even more fitting. It was not merely about athletic brilliance. It was about accumulated football intelligence. As teammates rushed toward him, the significance was visible everywhere, on the faces of players, in the reaction of the crowd, in the sudden shift of energy inside the stadium. Everyone seemed aware that they had just witnessed a number that carries real weight in modern football. 100 goals for a club is not a casual statistic. It speaks of consistency. It speaks of availability. It speaks of performance under pressure across multiple seasons, against different opponents, in different tactical systems, and in moments when expectations remain permanently high. For Ronaldo, it added another chapter to a career that has repeatedly redefined longevity at the highest level. Across years, leagues, and football cultures, he has preserved the core elements that make elite forwards dangerous: hunger, discipline, movement, competitive intensity, and an extraordinary commitment to preparation. That is often what makes his numbers so remarkable. Goals can look simple in the final second, but behind them is years of repetition, training ground routines, physical maintenance, tactical study, recovery work, endless refinement of details that most supporters never see. Milestones are visible outcomes of invisible habits. The goal also captured something important about Al Nassr as a team. It was not an isolated individual action, detached from collective play. It emerged from coordinated movement, awareness of space, and trust between attacking players. Mane's decision was intelligent. Ronaldo's timing was intelligent. The entire sequence reflected shared understanding. That matters because strong teams are built not only on star quality, but on connection. When attackers recognize each other's intentions without hesitation, the game opens. Defenders become reactive rather than proactive. Those moments often decide tight matches. At 3-1, the emotional landscape of the game changed. Al Nassr suddenly had breathing room. The tension that had defined earlier phases gave way to greater authority. Possession became calmer. Passing carried more confidence. The players looked more certain in their decisions. For Shabab, the challenge became psychological as much as tactical. Conceding a third goal is difficult in itself. Conceding it during a historic moment, with the stadium lifted by emotion, can be even more demanding. They still fought, still competed, still searched for momentum, but the balance of belief had clearly shifted. One of the remarkable things about Ronaldo is how moments like these still feel charged with anticipation, even after decades of extraordinary achievement. Many players would have long ago become ordinary in the eyes of spectators, simply because greatness had become expected. Yet when he moves into the penalty area, when the ball travels across goal, when defenders hesitate for half a second, there remains that unmistakable sense that something important might happen. That is not only reputation, it is pattern recognition built over years. Fans have seen the movement before. Opponents have felt the danger before. Teammates trust the run because they know the destination. The 100th goal also speaks to adaptation. Football changes constantly. Defensive structures evolve. Physical demands increase. Tactical expectations become more complex. Yet elite players survive not merely because they remain physically capable, but because they continue learning. They refine positioning. They become more efficient in movement. They understand when to conserve energy and when to attack space with maximum intensity. Ronaldo's goal in the 72nd minute was a perfect example of that maturity. It was not a goal built on endless sprinting. It was built on choosing the right moment. That is often the hidden art of experienced forwards. Mane deserves major credit in the story of the goal as well. Assists can sometimes be reduced to numbers, but the quality of his decision was crucial. He recognized the run early, trusted the movement, and delivered a ball that invited a finish. That kind of chemistry can transform good attacks into decisive ones. In big matches, the finest details matter. The angle of the run, the speed of the delivery, the body position of the defender, the timing of one touch. Margins are tiny. The best attacking players understand how to make those margins work in their favor. For supporters of Al Nassr, the moment will live beyond the 90 minutes because it combined result and symbolism. A 2-goal advantage in a competitive league match is valuable. A landmark goal from one of football's defining figures adds something emotional, something memorable, something that stays in collective memory longer than tactical diagrams or statistical summaries. Football history is full of nights remembered not only for trophies or standings, but for moments when narrative and performance intersect. This felt like one of those nights. The game mattered. The goal mattered. The milestone made it larger. It also reminded everyone why milestones remain powerful in sport. They create markers in time. Years from now, supporters may not remember every pass or every sequence from the match, but they will remember that it was against Al Shabab. They will remember the 72nd minute. They will remember the low cross for Mane. They will remember the finish. They will remember the scoreboard reading 3-1. And perhaps most of all, they will remember the immediate realization that another chapter had just been written. For younger viewers, moments like this also carry educational value. They show that elite football is not only about spectacular technique. It is about reading the game, about patience, about understanding timing and movement, about making the correct decision under pressure. Great players often make difficult actions appear simple because they have mastered the decisions that come before the action itself. That is why Ronaldo's longevity remains one of the defining stories of modern football. The physical side matters, of course, but intelligence, adaptation, and obsessive detail matter just as much. Greatness lasts when talent evolves into method. As the final stages of the match unfolded, there was a visible sense that everyone inside the stadium understood the occasion. Every touch from Ronaldo seemed to carry extra attention. Every camera angle searched for reaction. Every supporter wanted to absorb the moment a little longer. Football moves quickly. New matches arrive. New headlines replace old ones. But certain nights resist that speed. They stay because they combine context, pressure, emotion, and achievement in a single sequence. This was one of those nights. In the early hours of May 8th, 2026, in the Saudi Pro League, a match between Al Shabab and Al Nassr produced not just another important result, but a moment that connected present competition with long-term legacy. A low cross for Mane, a perfectly timed run, a composed finish, a 3-1 lead, 100 goals. The image says everything. Ronaldo moving through the box, the ball arriving, the net rippling, teammates running toward him, the crowd rising, and history quietly adding another line. That is one of the enduring beauties of football. Even in an era of endless statistics, endless analysis, and endless debate, the sport still knows how to create moments that feel immediate and human. A movement recognized, a pass understood, a finish completed, then thousands of people reacting together. It is simple, but it is never ordinary. And on this night, it belonged to Cristiano Ronaldo. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want more football analysis, match narratives, and historic moments from around the game, make sure to stay with the channel. Until next time, take care and enjoy the football.